So I've always prided myself on offering the products that tick all of the boxes that everyone else is ticking, but then don't just slap on some ridiculous price as well. However, when it comes to packaging, that's difficult because sustainable packaging is not something that I can control the price of.
Hi, I'm Chloe from Zenbox, and I'm on a mission to get brands talking about how post-purchase operations affect the customer experience. And importantly, how to deliver on promises that mean you create loyalty that drives repeat purchases. Welcome to After the Buy Button, the show that focuses on post-purchase operations to help you improve your customer experience. I'm really excited to welcome today's guest, Anna Brightman. Anna is co-founder of Upcircle, the beauty brand that uses commonly discarded products such as coffee grounds to create everything from body scrubs to facial serums. And so Anna, welcome. Can you tell us how this all started and how the brand has gone from strength to strength?
Thank you so much for having me. So as mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Upcircle. We have been in existence now for 5 years. Definitely feels like a lot longer than that. Been a bit of a roller coaster, but only 5 years old. But it's we've seen sort of tremendous growth in that time, where we're selling hundreds of thousands of units per year across the globe. Even for example, in 2020, our US retailers and sales almost took over our UK, and that was just in 1 year. So it's a busy time. Our concept's a little different to any other skincare brand, which is that we are focused on the circular economy. So every single formulation that we put out into a skincare product is made with a core byproduct ingredient that's been sourced from varied other industries, largely the food industry. So coffee, as you mentioned, is a great example of that. We've saved over 300 tons of coffee grounds from local cafes and restaurants by turning those into exfoliators. But we also source 9 other byproducts. So things like powdered fruit stones, like olive stones that are byproducts from creation of olive oil, or argan shells that are left over by the argan oil industry that we use in our face moisturizer. We also use chamomile stem extract and chai spices that have been brewed to make chai syrups, even maple bark extract. So huge variation of ingredients that we're using in our skincare formulations. I think we tick also a lot of the other tick boxes that people are looking for with brands at the moment. So yes, there is this real focus on the circular economy and reutilizing would-be waste ingredients, but we're also vegan, cruelty-free, palm oil-free, handmade in the UK, organic, all of those other things as well. So lots going on at the same time, lots of challenges, but I think that this real unique ethos is what's made us so popular so quickly and become a bit of a household name by disrupting the beauty industry so much.
Absolutely. You sort of mentioned the other product points of being vegan and everything, and that definitely talks to the consumer and everything that people are looking for now, especially for those direct to consumer brands that have that story and that narrative to tell. And I think it's definitely resonating by the success of the company, as you've just illustrated. So and I was kind of checking out the website and everything. Your brand is definitely, focusing on, consumer first. What are they looking for? These kind of trends and needs of demands of the modern consumer.
Yeah.
Your website makes it very easy to buy to buy things, as I can attest to, as I went on there, and it's just very easy, to make an order, to place an order, and everything is up to expectations, like you said. It's being led by the consumer. So with that, I kind of wanted to focus on the post-purchase experience and how that is continued through after the buy button. So actually to focus on your packaging, because you're also plastic free, which is again another one of these consumer demands, which is true to your brand ethos. So you've got the packaging, 2 types of packaging really: the actual product packaging and then the packaging for delivery. So could you kind of break those down for us in how you went about sourcing plastic free packaging, and what challenges did you face there? How hard was it to kind of get all of that set up?
Sure. I mean, packaging is something that I find myself talking about every single day and is probably one of my biggest frustrations as a brand founder operating in the world of sustainability, because I think what
Mm,
you find is that there is no correct answer. You can do or make decisions that you think are the best and be able to reason those based on whatever criteria you've been using. But then someone will come along and say, oh, but what about this? And you're like, oh, God, okay, well, are we back to square one then? Is actually plastic better than glass, or is aluminium better than
mm,
cardboard or whatever it might be? And then, as you've mentioned, the most important thing here is that you are never sacrificing the user experience or how the product is supposed to function, because
mm,
that is kind of the number one. People are buying your product because it needs to do something. So if the packaging gets in the way of that, then it doesn't matter how sustainable that packaging is, because your audience is going to be diminished massively, and therefore your brand impact is going to be massively diminished, etc. So there are a million things going on at the same time, and it's very challenging to get it 100% right when you yourself are not a packaging manufacturer. Like I don't make packaging. I am
mm,
restricted by what is out there on the market and the price point of those things as well. Because
yeah.
obviously I've mentioned all of these many tick boxes, the vegan, cruelty free, etc. But for me also, I was 23 when I launched the business. One of my main frustrations with making sustainable, ethical purchases was that they were at this premium price point that I just quite honestly couldn't afford, which again cut me off to
Mm,
most brands operating in the sustainable field. So I've always prided myself on offering the products that tick all of the boxes that everyone else is ticking, but then don't just slap on some ridiculous price as well. However, when it comes to packaging, that's difficult because sustainable packaging is not something that I can control the price of. Um,
mm,
so that's definitely one challenge. The decision making that we've gone with is largely down to how easy it is to recycle the materials that we use in our packaging at home. So,
okay.
sure, there are some amazing initiatives like TerraCycle or, specialist recycling banks that work with certain materials, or, bioplastics is another hot topic at the moment, but essentially it's still plastic. And, no amount of clever marketing can disguise that fact. So we've kept clear of that. And so we're focusing on things like glass or aluminium that at home in your kitchen already by your local council, these materials will already be recycled. So, yes, granted, we've got this eco story and this focus on sustainability. So a lot of our audience will already have that care for how
Mm,
they're disposing of the packaging that they have around the products that they purchase. But we are trying really to be a mainstream brand and to make sustainability mainstream and to kind of challenge the status quo. And so, what that does mean, and of course, the focus, therefore, as we've been discussing, is user experience and high quality performing products. What that does mean, though, is that we will also have customers who like our brand just because of the quality of the products and don't care in the slightest about the sustainability piece. So, we have to think about those people as well. And they are not going to go out of their way to recycle the packaging at some specialist plant or to
mm,
use packaging return schemes or whatever it might be. So that's kind of how we've gone about it. Um, and I think it's worked out pretty well. We do always have challenges with packaging that come up often after we've released the product. You can do as much testing as you like.
mm,
But once you've released the product and start selling thousands and thousands of units of it, that's when you can really analyze feedback and analyze bugbears or customer issues. And so, what I do think as a brand founder that we are very committed to doing is constantly evolving the products that are already released. So if we
mhm.
see a packaging issue, okay, fine. Yeah, we've already released it, but that doesn't mean it's in the past. Let's go
Yeah.
back, let's refine it and try something new.
Mm. That's a really important piece, actually, that, it applies to a lot of different areas of e-commerce with that kind of continuous improvement. Like you don't
Yeah.
just set a product live on your on your website and then that's it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, and kind of like you said, that when you have enough data really to see those trends, it's kind of, making sure that you're using that data in the
Mm.
right way. If there is a problem, then you're able to kind of go back and address it. That's a really kind of important point that actually you make, that there's a lot of different considerations. You're trying to run a business, it has to be, the price point has to be right. It has to be right for a lot of different areas of customers, which is, there's just a lot of considerations.
It's a hard task.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, you've made it so that it is the easiest as possible for people to recycle. And I think that's definitely, kind of speaks back to the customer experience and making sure that you deliver on what's promised. So my next question is sort of about how you're set up operationally to maintain that customer experience and deliver on what the brand promises, obviously, because like we said, there's kind of those really strong messages there. And just to kind of set off on that from my own experience of ordering from your brand, it was, you don't really get what you offer a lot, which was, free delivery on how, I think it might have been over a certain amount of how much I ordered. And then it turned up the next day. That, I don't think that you get that a lot for free delivery. It's always, it will turn up when it turns up. It's free.
Yeah. Don't complain. It's free.
Yeah, exactly. How are you guys? How do you view that? How are you set up operationally?
So this is a really interesting one, as someone who's obviously been the brand since day one alongside my brother and watched it grow over the last 5 years. Each year is remarkably different from the year before. But there are a few things as a founder that I kind of cling on to, and I'm very reluctant to sort of hand over, because naturally you're used to doing everything. And with each new person that joins your team, and as your brand grows, you have to just let things go and let other people take them over. So for the first, I would say, at least 3 years, I actually packaged up every single order myself. And that was something that, it was extremely time consuming, granted, but it's that control over what is so important, which is that actual touch point between you, the brand, and the products, and how that is received by the person who's bought it. And that's so important. Of course, as you scale, you learn that that's not going to be feasible, and you have to look towards whether it's getting another big warehouse. We're London based, so that wasn't really an option for us. Or what we did do, which was choosing fulfillment partners that suit what you're looking for, that can take that responsibility off you. But naturally, of course, you do end up having to not necessarily make sacrifices, but I can't write handwritten notes in every single order anymore, and I used to do that. So what it then comes back to is it's more of a design task. So, okay, I can't write a handwritten note, but how can I get across to the customer that this is still very much something that I care about? I care how this parcel looks. I care that you've made an order, and I'm thankful for that. I want you to have an appreciation of the people behind the brand and the effort that's gone into this parcel, basically. So, we have branded boxes that are actually due to launch into our warehouse this week, which is a big step up and is hugely costly. But the design kind of focus, or what we were going for behind those was putting across those messages for us. It's all about, as you have less of a voice, as you reach a wider audience, how can you get your packaging or your point of sale to be that voice for you? And like the flyers, for example, that we've designed, they've got a picture of the team on the back and a little thank you message. And then the other side is designed like a newsletter. So we don't get that many made each time, several thousand, so that they are being rotated all, if you ordered a moisturizer and then you used it, the next time you order it, you're going to have a different newsletter. And so all of these other things go into the, it goes away from the personal touch and then towards more of a design objective to how you can maintain that touch without that personal touch. And then, of course, it's finding fulfillment partners that can work in alignment with what you're trying to achieve. And so we've got several. We've got one in Ireland, one in Birmingham, one in America. And this will continue to grow so that, again, we're minimizing shipping and the carbon footprint. All of these sorts of things have to go into it, and lots of decisions that have to be made on various factors with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much that differs in the world of fulfillment. You've got kind of, like we kind of mentioned, the data. You've got that kind of whole technology point. How technology kind of driven are they, and how much is that affecting what you can do, what decisions you can make? but also, quite rightly, as you said, kind of on the packaging, are you working, closely with them are they doing exactly what you want?
Yeah.
Are they able to provide the personalized packaging?
Yeah.
Because, often it is just, third party. So it's like, it's a brown box and, we do the pick, pack and deliver, but the, fulfillment companies that can do the additional branding and, like you said, the flyers and keep on top of that, make sure that they're rotated every few months, they're the right ones, all of that sort of stuff.
And that's so
really
relevant to what industry you're in, like what your business is as well. You mentioned rotation, like that's fundamental in food, right?
Yeah.
And certain beauty brands, depending on what your kind of ethos is. Whereas for us, we are a beauty brand, and so the aesthetics of everything are so important. So that has to come high up on the list. And of course, eco. Like, if there was bubble wrap in it, then oh god, all the effort we've gone to for then it to arrive with that would just be absolutely painful. So they have to have the eco piece. They have to be willing to put the effort into the aesthetics of it. Of course, a lot of our products are glass, so there's the fragility element there as well.
Yeah.
We do actually, I didn't mention, we maintain a railway arch facility here in London as well. So we do have someone who manages that. So for things like, I don't know, press send outs or influencer send outs, things that are unpaid for but very important, that's nice and easy, because I know that I've gone through, writing nice little notes with him and stuff. So we've still got that kind of control too.
That's good. You've maintained that ability to, where necessary, you can still kind of go back to how you used to do it and kind of have that really personal message.
For sure.
Wow. There's just so much that's kind of involved there. Like you said, different continents, different, different partners for each kind of part of that.
I would say that for us, you mentioned tech. That's definitely been something that is very important for us when choosing these partners. There's a lot of technology, and it's helpful because you need that visibility on your stock control when you are dealing with so many different locations and orders on the scale that we are. We're still a relatively young brand, but we are dealing with huge orders at the moment. And unfortunately, because of relatively how young we are, we would love to have 10,000 of each SKU in every single location, but we fundamentally cannot be sat on that much money because we don't have that much money. So it's an extremely careful and delicate balancing act in order to make sure that we've got enough in play in the different locations that we have. So this technology, QR codes that scan products in and out of the building, and you're getting live feedback on what's going in and what's going out all the time, particularly when our order turnaround can be within 24 hours, as you mentioned. It's very important for us that we have that visibility and that the tech is there to maintain accuracy across all of the different locations, so that we can strategize, we can plan, the manufacturing, the supply chain, ordering and ingredients, packaging, etc. All of that has to happen at the right time in order that these warehouses are kept at the right stock levels, depending on the forecasting and the upcoming orders that we have. So again,
absolutely,
a very simple job.
Yeah, it is so important, isn't it? Like you said, kind of all of those things have to work. One thing goes down and the rest of the line is, and there's just definitely. And I think that speaks to a lot of kind of e-commerce sellers about, overselling on the website and not getting the stock there in time, or, anything, the kind of knock-on effect of all of those things. And, the end thing is, as you've kind of quite rightly said, kind of throughout this, is it's the customer. If they don't get what they ordered, or if you have to disappoint them in any way, because anything could have gone wrong anywhere for that to have happened, then that's what you're trying to avoid as the main thing, and there's just so many ways that can happen, really. The accuracy, like you said, tech, so many factors. With that, that's kind of answered a few of my kind of questions as we've gone. But are you, and obviously you've said 5 years, and you've clearly scaled a lot in that time. What are the kind of other, has there been any kind of main challenge that you've really faced, and gone, oh no, like something's gone wrong here, and then overcome it in those kind of steps operationally?
In short, yes. I think my brother, who is the co-founder, and I describe each day going to work as going into battle, because it was not an exaggeration to say that we are landed with business critical nightmares every single day.
Oh no.
And it is just a case of, we always try to see humor in every single situation. We laugh our way through it, and then just rolling your sleeves up and cracking on and solving the problem. I think we were warned, to be fair, in the very early days, when you are just someone who's excited and think they've got the best idea in the world, you can be faced with a lot of reality the more questions you ask of people in the industry or mentors or whoever it might be, investors. And we were told time and time again, okay, it's a fantastic idea. We love reutilizing byproducts into skincare. It's not been done before. Like, it's really cool. It's trendy. It will be something that it will be, it will prove popular. However, it will not be something that you can scale into a massive brand. So if that's your objective, then just don't even bother. However, we are proving that wrong. But we're proving that wrong through numerous hurdles with the scaling up process. And I would say that the primary ones for that are regarding the ingredient sourcing, the ingredient processing, and the sort of testing and stability of the formulations that we have to go through. That's a lot more challenging than it would be if you were just buying a pure ingredient. So we've got better at that as the years have gone on, but I think coffee is probably the best example, because we are the first people to really scale that up, and the scrubs are so popular. But unlike some of the other repurposed ingredients that come from one source, these are the coffee that we're collecting come from hundreds and hundreds of cafes and restaurants. And then so if something like COVID happens, well, how are you going to keep your product in stock? Because all of a sudden you are relying on the functioning of other industries in order to secure the byproducts that you use. So that in itself, huge, mega challenge that you're going to have to overcome to keep your product in stock.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. Wow. When we went into lockdown, a coffee shop shut down, what happened for you?
The start of COVID generally was an unbelievably interesting time for us, because what we saw, particularly with online, was that sales absolutely rocketed. People were not wearing makeup so much and taking time for themselves, and this focus on self-care and bringing the spa home and all of that. So our sales absolutely soared. But then everything else got more difficult. So, the prices went up, the lead times tripled, the supply chain was infinitely more complex. And of course, as mentioned, lots of the industries, like, the majority of the food industry, kind of went on pause for months at a time. So for us specifically with the coffee, we were extremely fortunate for the timing, which was that we had just closed a massive collection round literally 4 days before the first lockdown. So at that point, we were sat on our maximum levels of stock. So, tens and tens of thousands of units of each variant. So that gave us a bit of breathing room to plan. But to be honest, we've had to completely change the places that we are. So we had hundreds of coffee shop partners, but 60% of those now will never be in operation again. They've permanently closed. And the rest of them are in locations that don't suit the sorts of retail that's managed to remain open. So take Brick Lane, for example. We had so many coffee shops along Brick Lane that we used to collect from in London. And it's like it's a place that's full of clubs and bars and a bit of a kind of touristy destination. But at the moment, it's absolutely dead. There's no one there. So instead, we've gone for much more of like a South London residential objective, and we found that places like Dulwich or Clapham, where previously we were not collecting from at all, but that have bakeries that have remained open and incredibly popular, we've just had to completely re-strategize the reasons which we choose the coffee partners that we do. And basically start from scratch. Lots of mobile trucks, food places that are still doing food deliveries and stuff like that. But yeah, we had to start from scratch. So that was difficult, but we were very lucky that we had just finished a round. So we had that time whilst that stock was selling to figure out the next round. But we did go out of stock for a period, and we've had to make sacrifices over the last year, sorry. So yeah, sometimes the lids might not have been black aluminium anymore because we couldn't get them sprayed black. They had to be silver. And yes, that's a bit painful for me, who is so focused on the aesthetic and the visual and the branding and the design. But equally, if it means that the product can sell for that month rather than being out of stock, then of course, something's got to give.
Absolutely, yeah. Wow, I mean, that's amazing, and I think that definitely speaks to the true meaning of being a like flexible, reactive brand. I mean, you had to pivot
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
time. So, yeah, that's kind of great for the timing of things. And I mean, glad that kind of happened that way, that you were able to get that little bit of time to take a step back and strategically go, right, all of this is going to change. We're going to need to source from elsewhere. So
Yeah.
I don't imagine a lot of brands will have had to face that
No.
particular issue, which is amazing. That you have kind of worked it through and that happened. Yeah, brilliant. So as you were scaling, I mean, this is obviously happened in the last year out of the 5 that you've had. I mean, it was how long originally when you first started, from that kind of concept, what sort of time frame would you have said that you managed to get set up in a way that you felt like you were ready to scale, or all of these things were sort of in place? Or you already said that you feel like every day is a battle going into battles, so maybe it's still going on.
It's a great question. I do think to an extent, yeah, you do face a new challenge each day, but for us, I would say that at the two-year mark was a real turning point for us. So I think people do starting out businesses differently. Some people will research for years. We did not do that. We just had our idea and very quickly moved into making our products and selling our products for numerous reasons. But what, of course, that does do is it means that you do inevitably make mistakes at the start. And they're mistakes that you might have to undo. So we actually went through a rebrand 2 years in, which was the whole reason for doing that. We kept the same concept and the exact same products. It was a change of name and it was a change of design so that we could scale up. So we had operated for the first 2 years selling one product, which was the coffee scrubs. And to be fair, as mentioned, they are our most challenging product for numerous reasons. But what we realized quite quickly was that, what worked for a one range brand didn't work for a brand that was going to be selling, across the seas, much farther afield, with potentially 20 or 30 different product ranges. So we had to completely go back to square one and plan for consistency, hierarchy of messaging in order that we can scale up. Similarly, that first 2 years with manufacturing was a time where we could experiment, push things, try things, and then just start again when needed over and over again until we found processes that worked that could then just be multiplied. So yeah, we took 2 years basically to make all of the mistakes that we needed to make by pushing things in different directions and trying out different things, and then being very confident and comfortable not only in the concept or the branding, the processes, manufacturing, formulations, products, all of that. We were then very, very confident, went away, rebranded, and then hit the ground running and just absolutely went for it. So that's kind of how we did it. And it's definitely worked out well for us because with the majority of things we can say, okay, yeah, well, we tried that and we tried that and we tried that. And this is what we got that works. And now it is just literally a case of multiplying to meet demand, which is what we're doing right now. And we've managed to do that. So thankfully, we've proved all of these investors and mentors wrong by taking that time in the beginning and not being afraid to start over it time and time again, which we did have to do. But it's that's now why we get people trying to find out how we do it every single day, because no one else has succeeded in that. And I guess that does just come back to character and having that ability to have an unbelievably thick skin and take the setbacks laugh about it and just try again.
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds like, yourself and your brother have that team and that mentality that is just let's start again, let's do it again. Well, okay, that didn't work, let's try it. And I
Mm,
think, like you said, that period of 2 years has really enabled you to not only, test and experience the things that don't work, but
mm,
also have that real confidence in the product, and the way that you do things now is because you had that time testing it and you learned, and
yeah.
all of that, like that kind of mentality and the whole trying and entrepreneurship vibe and
Mm,
everything
mm.
that happened in those 2 years. So it's really, really interesting and kind of a good story and a way of approaching it, really, even though you might not have felt that at the time and just sort of
Mm.
thought, oh, well, let's try the next thing, let's try this.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
think
that.
I hear so many brands that just go through such long periods of research, and I think, okay, of course, everyone needs to research. Like, you can't
Mm.
plunge in blindfolded and hope for the best. But then equally, you don't know until you do. So just
Right.
get on with it. Like, just start and then refine. That's how we've done it. So we make, we do, we sell, and then we are willing to continually evolve it and to continually refine it and make it better and better and better as we go, rather than this, huge long period at the start where you're essentially doing nothing but thinking that you're getting yourself ready. And then you
Mm.
might start it and either no one will like it or no one will care, or you'll face these issues that you could have foreseen. In which case you've wasted time and you're back to square one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a real good kind of point to end on, actually, that, it's sort of all about keeping going and that sort of camaraderie and, working out what works, especially for that kind of, very, very young companies just starting out. So I'm sure your story will be a real kind of inspiration to a lot of people. So on that point, I mean, that kind of sums everything up for us. And my last question is just about, really, I mean, continuing that theme of inspiration and guidance. Is there any resources or books or podcasts or anything that you look to that kind of help you, that you would recommend to listeners?
Oh, great question. So I feel like my kind of core guidance team are particularly my mum and my sister. So I live with my sister and her boyfriend. So within the last year, particularly, that's kind of your go-to stress board for answering or helping out with all of the daily struggles that we have and the hurdles that we face. So they're my number one. I've massively felt the absence of my friends, because again, I'm just a super social person. I'm much more of a get out there and chew your friend's ear off for 2 hours to solve your problems than kind of I guess reading books and podcasts and stuff. That said, in the early days, I did absorb information as much as I possibly could.
Mhm.
So I've read Richard Branson's books and Alan Sugar's books and all of those kind of classic character building, are you ready to do this sorts of books, which I do feel are definitely valuable, because no one,
Mm.
you can know your brand or your business or your idea as much as you think you do, but it's the test of character, which I think is something that doesn't get spoken about quite so much. And then in terms of books and podcasts and stuff, I mean, I'm a massive Louis Theroux fan, so I listen to his podcast.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily guidance. That's more, I guess, work-life balance, because that's one thing
Mm.
I hugely struggle with is, I work too much, essentially. Particularly difficult in the last year when there's no division between work and
Yeah,
home. So
absolutely.
when it comes to the resources that whether it's television, podcasts, or books, I like to keep it non-work related. So
Hmm.
my friend the other day gave me the Dolly Alderton book. So,
Yeah.
things like that, keeping it lighthearted, and not necessarily work related. But I must say, in the era of social media and with the platform that we've built, the
Mm.
pressure on us as a brand to comment on big world topics has definitely increased within the last year, particularly as people are spending more time on social media. So
Right.
I've sort of pivoted towards looking at different, and I hate the term in itself, but influencers or people who choose
Mm.
to use their platforms built either off a personal brand or an actual brand to speak about important topics. So people like Jamila Jamil, for example, is someone who I love following. Um, and I actually look to a lot of these people who take social media as a platform. Um, speak on more important topics, I guess, because that's something that we've had to do a lot of as a brand in recent times. So yeah, you can get inspiration and guidance from all over the place, whether it's friends, family, I guess television, social media, wherever it might be. And I always try to do that, I guess. But then equally, I get my sanity from socializing and from the people closest to me. So I'm looking forward to the summer ahead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Things opening up again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, you make some really, really good points there. That, firstly, the balance between, not everything you consume has got to be to do with work, but there is information everywhere. So, and yeah, kind of keeping it back to basics, and, the people that you live with and that you talk to the most to kind of, like you say, bring back your sanity and use as a sounding board. I think that's really kind of, core to kind of getting through. Maintaining good mental health as well. So
absolutely
cool, great. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking to me. There's some real gems in there. I'm sure everybody will find really, really useful.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks again.
Thanks.